Welcome to Beware the Scare, the series that showcases the most horrifying moments in horror movies. My name is Tyler Style, and today we will be looking at Midsommar, the second film from director Ari Aster, who wrote and directed 2018's Hereditary. Let's see if he can keep on his early success with this film. We start off the movie looking at a creepy mural that depicts future scenes of the movie. After looking into the stare of Satan himself, we meet one of the main characters, Danny. Danny is trying to call her parents, but they aren't answering their phones because they're asleep. We then cut to Danny's boyfriend Christian and his friends Pele, Josh, and Kenny from Where the Millers. I mean Mark. Hope we get some more sweet vocals out of him in this movie.
I seen a rainbow yesterday, but too many storms have come and gone.
After Christian gets another call from Danny, his friends try to convince him that he should break up with her. After he answers her call, we learn that Danny's parents aren't heavy sleepers. They dead. They died from accidental asphyxiation from Danny's sister, who committed suicide with carbon monoxide. We find Christian and Danny at a party where Christian talks about going to Sweden in 2 weeks with his friends without telling Danny. They argue about the secrecy and then transition into Christian and his friends talking about how Danny and how she is going to Sweden, but how she isn't going to Sweden. I know, it's confusing.
I invited her, and she accepted, but she's not actually coming to Sweden.
Other than that, I couldn't focus on their conversation because of the crooked picture in the corner of the screen. Danny comes into the room and starts to talk alone with Pele. After he mentions her family's death, Danny goes into the bathroom and bam, we're on a plane. While driving to Midsommar, we get a cool camera angle of the camera going from upside down to right side up. When we arrive at Midsommar, we meet Connie and Simon. Pele's best friend Ingmar invited them to Midsommar with. Everyone is then offered some sort of drug and decides not to listen to Mr. Mackey. The drugs lead to a hilarious scene where Mark is tripping out.
It's okay, Mark. It's the midnight sun.
That feels wrong. I don't like that.
It even has Danny tripping when she sees grass growing on her hand. This makes her get up and go for a walk when she sees people laughing at her. She runs into a bathroom, and this leads us to our first jump scare. We see a face in the bathroom mirror, and there's a loud noise as we see Danny run out of the bathroom. After this scene, we see Danny wake up and ask a ridiculous question.
Is it tomorrow?
They all arrive at Midsommar, and Danny arrives with a bad case of diaper butt. That doesn't stop Pele and an elder member from looking at each other with fuck me eyes. And the elder says welcome to everyone, but says welcome home to Danny.
Hello, hey. Hello, welcome. Hi. Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome home.
Oh.
As everyone toasts for the start of Midsommar, we get a clip of Ruben, the finger painting. The people dance for the start of Midsommar. Carrie taps Christian with her foot. Her name isn't Carrie, but she reminds me so much of the original Carrie, so I'm gonna call her that until we learn her name. Today is an important day because it's Danny's birthday. Pele drew a picture of her, and Christian forgot about her birthday. But it's okay, because he has a good excuse.
I forgot to remind him, and it's not his fault.
While walking, they see a bear in a cage. We see a love story play out on a tapestry that I have to blur a couple of the images because of YouTube's strict policy. It's finally bedtime, and Mark asks the same question about privacy that I have.
Yeah, what do you do when you need to jerk off?
The next day, Danny and crew are listening to some old members speak gibberish, and they get carried away because they're too old to walk. The elders get carried to a mysterious mountain where they turn emo and cut themselves. After this, the old woman decides to take a leap of faith, and we see her do the world's worst belly flop. We get a close-up of this fall, but it's too disturbing to show on YouTube. The old man decides to jump off and do the pencil as he breaks his legs. His fall didn't kill him, so a man with a giant wooden mallet decides to finish him off. Everyone wants to leave after seeing these events except for Christian, who decides to steal Josh's thesis idea for college. What a dick! Diaper Butt Danny has finally taken off her pants and is no longer Diaper Butt Danny. As everyone goes to sleep, Danny has a crazy dream sequence where everybody leaves her at Midsommar. While Danny pukes up smoke, Carrie puts something under Christian's bed. Pele tells Christian that his sister Maya likes him. This means that I will no longer be calling her Carrie. Mark takes a tinkle on the ancestral tree and gets yelled at by an old man. Connie gets the news that Simon left in a car without her, but the car will be back to pick her up. As everybody talks about this, Danny hits Christian with a sick burn.
I could see you possibly doing that.
Christian finds a pube in his pie, and Mark gives another hilarious line.
Are you embarrassed? You're not the one giving out pear pies.
A girl asks for Mark to come with him, and he accepts the invitation. It's nighttime again, and Josh decides to be a bad boy and sneaks into a creepy building to look at the sacred book and take pictures. He hears someone come up from behind him who he thinks is Mark. As he is telling him to shut the door, someone comes behind him and plays whack-a-mole with him. The next morning, an elder announces that the sacred book is missing and whoever stole it needs to return it. Danny gets tea served to her, and everyone starts to do the dance to choose the May Queen. Christian watches the dance and reluctantly accepts the tea Maya offered him. Danny is tripping hard, but not as bad as the last two contestants who trip over each other, and Danny gets crowned May Queen. Danny gets bombarded by everyone and sees her mom walk past her, and Pele shoves his tongue down her throat. This is where we see an image of a face in the trees. This face is supposed to be Danny's sister, who is sucking on the exhaust pipe. Supposedly, there are more of these images of faces in the background, but this is the only one I've seen so far. Danny has to go in a carriage and bless the crops for the rest of the year, leaving Christian alone. A trail of roses is left for Christian to follow after getting ready with a man. He goes into a room with Maya and a bunch of naked women humming. If you think it's uncomfortable enough, Christian and Maya get to the baby making while a girl starts singing right next to them. Danny hears the humming from outside and goes to see what it is, seeing Christian getting jiggy with Maya. The girls try to help Danny from her panic attack, but start mimicking her instead. Back to the adult section of this film, an old lady starts to help Christian with his thrusting when he goes off and runs outside naked. He finds Josh's legs sticking out of the garden, then runs into a wooden building where he finds Simon in a not so good position. Christian gets a face full of powder as a man blows it into his face. This makes it so Christian can't speak or move. After closing his eyes with a cool camera effect, Danny is now covered in flowers and is sitting on her throne. Pele and Igmar volunteer as sacrifices as they brought outsiders in. Danny now has to choose the last sacrifice. Her options are a random person in the group or Christian. Ultimately, she chooses Christian to suffer for his erotic actions. Still affected by the powder, Christian is put inside the bear skin from the bear we saw earlier in the film. Turns out it wasn't just a bear after all. As Christian and the other sacrifices are brought into an unknown yellow pyramid, an elder gives Pele and Igmar sap from the yew tree so the fire won't hurt them. They light the pyramid on fire and everyone sings as the building burns. Pele and Igmar start to scream in pain as the yew tree sap does nothing to them. Looks like that old man was a dirty liar. As the building burns, everyone outside seems to go crazy, but Danny gets a huge smile on her face to end the movie. Midsommar has a runtime of 2 hours and 23 minutes and a total of 3 minor jump scares and a lot of gory and uncomfortable scenes. My favorite scene had to have been when the elders jumped off the mountain and all the gore that came with it. I'm excited to see what Ari Aster has coming next. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like the video, comment other movies you want me to do, and subscribe to see when my next video comes out. Please consider becoming a patron where you can see all my videos unblurred. My name is Tyler Style, and this has been Beware the Scare.